Narad Muni made one statement in verse number 50 that exalted persons like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma could not properly describe the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is now going to substantiate that point, that how Lord Shiva is totally dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna, for his powers. And this section is also going to paint the history behind Lord Shiva's name, Tripurari. So Tri means three, right? Pura means dwellings, and Ari means one who is the enemy, or you can say vanquisher. So Lord Shiva is the vanquisher of three dwellings, and that's the history we are going to learn about in this section. So first of all, purport number 51, Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Shiva is known as Mahadev, the most exalted demigod. Thus, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although Lord Brahma did not know the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva could have known them. This historical incident proves that Lord Shiva derives power from Lord Krishna, the Parabrahman. So here is the pastime. When we use the word pastime, of course that pastime is of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead can perform pastimes. In the past, when I was using the word that pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, but actually you have to understand that that means it's the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in relation to Prahlad Maharaj. Living entities do not perform pastimes, it's only the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Narad Muni begins the pastime by saying, My dear King Yudhishthir, long, long ago in history, a demon known as Maya Dānava, who was very expert in technical knowledge, reduced the reputation of Lord Shiva. In that situation, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saved Lord Shiva. So hearing these words, Yudhishthir immediately asks this question, that why Maya Dānava ruined Lord Shiva's reputation, and how Lord Krishna actually saved Lord Shiva and expanded his fame. So Narada responds to Yudhishthira Maharaj's questions and starts describing the whole background, that once the demigods, they were victorious in their fight with the demons, and then demons were brought under the control of the demigods, and the demons in turn, they took shelter of the powerful Maya Dānava. And Maya Dānava, in order to protect the demons, he built three very uncommon residences which would be invisible to everyone. So one was made of gold, another was made of silver, and the third one was made of iron. And utilizing these invisible mansions, the Asuras then began to destroy the higher planetary systems and creating a lot of distress for the rulers of those planets. And then that actually impelled the demigods in turn to seek shelter from Lord Shiva. And therefore the demigods surrendered to Lord Shiva, and then they prayed that, my dear Lord, we demigods are about to be vanquished and we are your followers, so please kindly save us. And hearing their plea, then Lord Shiva assured them that don't be afraid, I'll take care of the situation. And so Lord Shiva fixed 3 arrows on his bows and then fired them like missiles, which looked like fiery sunbeams when they were shot in the air, and they were shot in the direction of the 3 residences of the demons. So this time the inhabitants were targeted. So the demoniac inhabitants of the 3 residents were killed by Lord Shiva's arrows, and seemed like everything is fine. But then Maya Dānava took hold of the situation and then dropped the bodies of those demons into a well of nectar. and then he revived all the bodies. In the process, actually the demons' bodies became invisible, um, not invisible, but invincible to thunderbolts, and then now actually it became impossible to kill them. So now Lord Shiva himself became disappointed and um, sought the shelter of Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in order to protect Lord Shiva as well as the demigods, he came up with a plan. So along with Lord Brahma, so Lord Brahma became a calf and Lord Vishnu took the form of a cow. And the two of them at the noon time entered those three residences. And after entering the residences, they both ended up drinking all the nectar that were there in the well. Now one may ask, how were they able to do that? So the point is that although the demons actually saw the calf and the cow, Lord Vishnu's illusory potency prevented them to, to do anything about it. So Maya Dānava himself became aware that the calf and the cow were drinking the nectar, but he recognized the event as the unseen hand of providence or unseen power of providence. And Maya Dānava at this time spoke something very, very important. He said that what has been destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, for others, or for both oneself and others cannot be undone anywhere or by anyone, whether one be a demigod, a demon, a human being, or anyone else. In other words, whether one is a demigod or a demon or a human being or anyone else, everyone is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa. And that is the point. So, our attempts to exert our will as we interact with the material world or even in our spiritual pursuits are ultimately dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, for all success. So Srila Prabhupada writes very wonderfully in purport number 64. However I plan, you plan, or both of us plan, the Lord has planned what is to happen. So this next sentence is important. No one's plan will be successful without His sanction. We may make our various plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, they will never be successful. Hundreds and billions of plans are made by all kinds of living entities, but without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, they are futile. Okay, so now, after taking charge of the situation, Lord Krishna, by his own personal potency, which is consisting of, the list is given, religion, knowledge, renunciation, opulence, austerity, education, and activities. He equipped Lord Shiva with a chariot, charioteer, flag, horses, elephants, bow, shield, and arrows. Now, note carefully, in the listing, a bow was mentioned, right? So this is the bow that was later given to Parashuram by Lord Shiva. And then that bow in turn was given to King Kamsa. And when the bow was given to King Kamsa, Parashuram made a prophecy that whoever breaks that bow would cause Kamsa's death. So when Krishna entered Mathura, the first thing, not the first thing, but like the one important thing that he did was that he broke that particular bow just before he killed Kamsa. So powerful Shiva, now fully armed with all these paraphernalia, a chariot, charioteer, flag, horses, elephants, bow, now armed, he joined his arrows to his bow and set fire to all the three demoniac residences. So this time he was able to directly target the residences which were otherwise invisible to the eyes of the common people. Prabhupada writes a deep secret in verse number 65, 66 purport. Um, Although Lord Shiva is very powerful, he lost a battle to the Asuras, and therefore he was morose and disappointed. However, because he is one of the chief devotees of the Lord, the Lord personally equipped him with all the paraphernalia for war. And here comes some important lines. The devotee, therefore, must serve the Lord sincerely, and Krishna is always in the background to protect him. And if need be, to equip him fully to fight with his enemy. And this last line is particularly very important. For devotees, there is no scarcity of knowledge or material requisites for spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. So all that is needed is a spiritual desire, and Krishna will provide everything that is needed for us to become successful. And in this way, seeing Lord Shiva's triumph, all the exalted saints and great personalities, they beat the kettle drums and showered flowers on Lord Shiva's head. And in this way, they chanted, "Let there be victory." So, who is getting glorified? Lord Shiva. Who is behind Lord Shiva's glorification? Lord Krishna. So, in this way, we should understand that there is no credit that we can take for anything that we may do. Ultimately, behind every successful enterprise is Krishna's kind hands, and that's what we should not forget. And thus, finally, Narad Muni is concluding by saying that, O King Yudhishthir, thus Lord Shiva is known as Tripurari. So Tripurari is one who is the annihilator of the three dwellings of the demons. So behind the name, so when we hear the word Tripurari, we should immediately understand that behind that name is Krishna's mercy. And because he burned these dwellings to ashes, being worshipped by the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva returned to his own abode. And then Narad Muni ends this chapter by saying, the Lord, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, appeared as a human being, and yet he performed many uncommon and wonderful pastimes by his own potency. How can I say more about his activities than what has already been said by great saintly persons? Everyone can be purified by his activities simply by hearing about them from the right source. The final purport of this chapter: the Krishna consciousness movement is just trying to make Krishna known all over the world as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. There are so many commentators of Srimad Bhagavad Gita that had been extant before Srila Prabhupada gave the Bhagavad Gita as it is. But if you notice, the commentators end up actually either overshadowing the conclusions of Krishna or trying to sell their own ideas in the name of the Bhagavad Gita. But when Srila Prabhupada gave the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the idea is to make Krishna shine. The focus, the spotlight was completely brought to Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa. And because of that, it became so potent that it made so many devotees around the world. In fact, record number of devotees and record number of temples got created. So this is the potency of bringing focus to Krishna no matter what we do. So if people take this movement seriously, their lives as human beings will be successful.